Hi everyone, I'm James Boyle, the Director of Planning at Sacramento Regional Transit.
And I'm James Drake, Principal Planner with SacRT.
Over the past year, SacRT has been working on the SacRT Forward project, a complete redesign of our bus network. A draft plan was released for public review on December 10th of 2018. In those 2 months since then, we have received more than 400 comments from our riders and members of the public, as well as from bus operators and customer service representatives. During that time, staff has also participated in more than 70 events, including community and neighborhood association meetings, stakeholder meetings, and staff has also been out riding on almost every bus route in the system to hand out information to customers and operators.
Over the past 2 months, as we've been getting comments from members of the public, we've been going through and making adjustments to the plan. And one of the things people ask us a lot is how we make our recommendations. A lot of people think that we just look at data and numbers and everything's based on that. And that's partly true. We use a lot of our ridership data and demographic data, but the other big thing we do is we take the comments we get from the public and we use that to reevaluate what we've put forward in the plan. And then the last thing is field work. We go out and observe the routes ourselves, or we have our staff out there, or we talk to our bus operators or other people out on the route. And so the process is that we kind of weave all three of those together. So in the video ahead, I'll be going through each of the routes, and where we've changed a lot about a route, I'll go through each of those, and the goal is to help everyone understand what the new plan is. So before we begin, I'm going to give a brief overview. You're looking at our new network as it would run on weekdays, and we use color codes throughout these maps. So red routes, such as Route 51 on Stockton Broadway, these routes run every 15 minutes. And currently there's basically 5 routes like this: Route 1, Route 30, Route 51, and parts of Route 67 and 68 where they combine, and part of Route 81. And that will essentially be unchanged, although we do have a slight change to Route 30 that I'll talk about in our section on the south area. Incidentally, we also show red lines for the blue line and the gold line because they run every 15 minutes. The dark blue routes on the map, such as Route 82, which goes from Sac State out to American River College, these routes run every 30 minutes. And they kind of make up the bulk of the service. One of the big things we try to do in this project is transition a lot of our hourly service to something better than hourly. In most cases to every 30 minutes, but in some cases we went to every 45 minutes. And for example, Route 11 in Natomas, this is a light blue route, and this will run every 45 minutes, although Route 11 actually runs every 30 minutes during peak hours and will continue to do so. But lastly, we have light green routes such as Route 19 to Rio Linda. And initially in this project, we did set out to essentially do away with hourly service to run all of our routes better than hourly 7 days a week. And ultimately, we backed away from this a little when we began looking at our budgets. We found that to do this, particularly on weekends, would mean having to cut too much weekday service. So in the new revised plan, not all of the routes, especially on Sundays and a little bit on Saturdays, not all the routes will be better than hourly. You'll have some routes that do run only hourly, but this allowed us to preserve and maintain a little better weekday service. And lastly, the pink routes, such as Route 129 or Route 109, these are peak-only routes. These are basically commuter expresses or commuter shuttle buses. So you'll notice that in the upper right area of the map, in the Folsom area, we have 1 green route and 2 pink routes. And these are the Folsom Stage Line bus routes, which were recently annexed by the Sacramento Regional Transit District. But these routes are not really part of the project. And likewise, in the south area, the light gray routes, these are Elk Grove Transit routes. And Elk Grove Transit is not part of SacRT. It's not part of the project, but it's shown here for context. And then lastly, I'd like to make a couple acknowledgments. First, The maps you see here today are all prepared using an online software platform known as Remix. It's a mapping software designed specifically for transit, and it helps us design these routes, it helps us visualize them, it helps us do all the computations and the budgeting that go into a project like this. And we got access to this software through a partnership with the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, and we can't thank them enough, both SACOG and our providers at Remix for this software. And lastly, I'll be going through a couple ridership maps that will visualize, I think in a really clear, effective way, what some of our ridership patterns are. And these are provided to us by our consultant, Jarrett Walker and Associates out of Portland, Oregon. And I think you'll really like those too. So with that, that kind of concludes the overview. Let's dive into the first set of routes. The first area we're going to discuss is the south area, and you're looking here at the existing system map on weekdays. And you can see from this map that the area is actually pretty well covered, but there's a lot of hourly service, like on Route 2 on Riverside, Route 6 on Land Park, Route 61 on Fruit Ridge, Route 65, Route 54, and Route 5. When we go to Saturdays, you can see that we lose our north-south service on Riverside and Land Park. We lose our east-west service on Fruit Ridge, and we lose a lot of service in the southeast area. And on Sundays, we lose Route 62 on Freeport as well. So let's take a look at the new system. This is a map of the new system on weekdays, and this is Saturdays, and this is Sundays. And you can see how the new system is pretty similar from day to day. Going back to weekdays and kind of starting from the left, Route 2 would become Route 102 and Route 6 would become Route 106. And these would both be peak-only routes running into and out of downtown during rush hour. Other than that, the stops and the routing wouldn't be changed. Next, we have Route 62. And Route 62 would basically be unchanged from today. There'd just be some minor changes. We would be changing the route off of 13th Street between 43rd Avenue and Southland Park Drive. And other than that, it would basically be unchanged from today. We had initially proposed to shorten the southern end of the route to have it turn around on Florin Road, but we've decided to keep it going to the existing terminal on Rush River Drive. Other than that, the only other change to Route 62 is that we're going to add Sunday service running every 60 minutes from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Next, we're going to talk about Route 81 on Florin Road. And Route 81 will basically be unchanged. It's the same route as we run today. We had initially proposed to turn the route around on Florin Road at Greenhaven Drive, but we decided to keep it the way it is, running all the way out to Riverside Boulevard, and service on Florin Road would remain every 15 minutes. The only other change to Route 81 is that on Sundays, we're going to improve the headways from hourly to every 30 minutes. Next, we have Route 56 on Meadowview Road, and the route itself is mostly unchanged. We had initially proposed to change the western terminal of the route to Florin Road and Greenhaven Drive, but we've decided to keep the western terminal where it is today on Rush River Drive. The only other change is just a minor change in routing, and that is to change the route from running on Mack Road, the way it does today, to running on Brookfield Drive and Franklin Boulevard. And this will give us a little better coverage of the area around Center Parkway. So with that, the only other change to Route 56 is that on Sundays we're going to improve the frequency from hourly to every 45 minutes. Next we have Route 61, which will still operate primarily on Fruit Ridge Road, but we're going to extend the western terminal south to Rush River Drive, kind of like Route 2 does today. We had initially proposed to have this route go to Florin Road and Greenhaven Drive, but we decided to make it more like an existing Route 2 going to Rush River Drive. The 61 is also going to get an improvement to its frequency. On weekdays, it's going to go from every 60 minutes to running every 30 minutes. And it's also going to get weekend service. On Saturdays and Sundays, it'll run at 45 minutes on both days. Looking at the east end of Route 61, there's also going to be major changes. Today, the existing 61 runs hourly, and it goes east on Fruit Ridge Road, north on Floor and Perkins Road, and connects with the Gold Line. And initially, we had proposed eliminating all the service east of 65th Street, and we've changed that to have the 61 continue out Fruit Ridge Road, down Power Inn Road to Florin Mall. And you can see from the satellite imagery here that we really do have a pretty good amount of population between 65th Street and Power Inn. East of Power Inn, the land use becomes a lot more industrial and there's not as much ridership potential. But with the new 61, we will not only provide coverage through these neighborhoods, but the new 61 will of course be running on Saturdays. This is a Saturday map, and on Sundays as well. So there'll be this will be 45-minute service on the weekends, but there will be consistent service the entire length of this route all week long. Next, we're going to talk about Route 67 and 68. In the existing system, these routes go from Arden Fair Mall down to Florin Mall in the south area. In the new system, both these routes will be extended south to Cosumnes River College. Now, in the initial proposal, we had suggested having Route 67 go straight down Franklin Boulevard to the Franklin Light Rail Station, which was going to provide good solid service on Franklin Boulevard, where it's currently served today primarily by Route 65. We've changed that to have it go over to Cosumnes River College. It'll still provide good coverage on South Franklin Boulevard, but by having it go over to Cosumnes River College, it can meet up with Route 68, and that provides a nice hub for our customers, both at the college and transfers from Elk Grove Transit. At one location, you'll be able to catch a 56, a 67, or a 68, all three of which are major routes with 7-day service. We also don't mind doubling up the service on Mack Road between the 56 and the 67, and that's due largely to the really good ridership that we get on Mack Road. This is a map of our ridership, and this is the existing 56. And you can see on Mack Road that we have very strong ridership along this corridor. So we don't mind doubling up the bus service between the 56 and the 67, especially because it gives those customers two different options for their travel. In our initial proposal, we had also proposed having Route 68 continue to turn around at Florin Mall. And in our new proposal, we have it extend farther south down to Cosumnes River College, where it will meet up with Route 67. Currently, this area between Florin Mall and Cosumnes River College is served by Route 55, and in our original proposal, we had Route 55 extend west on Florin Road to help out the 81. But in our new proposal, we'll actually have the 55 being eliminated and the 68 taking over that service. So a couple other minor things about the 68. We'll have a slight change. Today we run on Steiner Way, and that service will be rerouted to just go straight east-west on 47th Avenue and then north-south on Stockton Boulevard to be more of a direct route. And then there's some minor changes to the routing on what's today the Route 55. In Oak Park and Curtis Park, there are a couple minor changes to point out. First of all, the existing 68, which I'll show you here, the existing 68 runs on 44th Street, and the existing 67 runs up MLK and jogs over to Franklin Boulevard. In the new system, we will be proposing to move Route 68 from 44th Street over to MLK. The 67 will remain on Franklin Boulevard to provide some service in Curtis Park, but by moving Route 68 from 44th Street over to MLK Boulevard, we provide, between the 67 and the 68, there will be 4 buses an hour going north-south on this part of MLK. And that's very important for the sake of transferring for customers on Route 61 who are headed north into town. In the existing system, with the 67 and 68 being on two different streets, it can create kind of a guessing game as to which bus will come first. In the new system, by putting them on the same street, a customer coming east or west on the 61 can get off at the intersection of Fruit Ridge and MLK and catch either bus, whichever one comes first, to go to many of the common destinations farther north on the system, such as Light Rail or Arden Fair Mall. Lastly, on Route 68, one change from our initial proposal is that initially we had proposed having Route 68 extend from its northern terminal at Arden Fair Mall east on Arden Way out to Watt Avenue. And in the new proposal, the Route 68 will just continue to turn around at Arden Fair Mall. The 67 and the 68 in the new proposal, that's already going to be a pretty long route all the way from Arden Fair Mall to Columbus River College. So we think it'll be easier to run more reliably if we not also extend it east on Arden Way. A couple of final things to note on Route 67 and 68 is that we will be adding some weekday evening trips and some Saturday evening trips to either lengthen the hours of service or to provide a little better headways in the evening. And we'll also be improving the frequency of both of these routes on the weekend. On Saturdays, we'll go from 60-minute frequency on each route to 30-minute frequency on each route, which will make it the same level of service as on weekdays. And we've basically always had really strong ridership on the 67 and 68, so we're trying to add a little bit of service to make it even better. On Route 51 on Stockton Boulevard, there are no changes to the route itself, but we will be adding trips on Saturday and Sunday to improve headways to more consistent 20 minutes to address capacity issues on that route. Route 65 and Route 55, which are shown here in the existing system. These routes were mentioned earlier in passing, but just to be clear, these routes will both be eliminated in the new system. But the majority of Route 65 and 55 will be covered by other routes. Route 65, the part on it south of Fruit Ridge, from Fruit Ridge down Power Inn to Florin Mall, that will be part of the new 61. The part on Florin Road is already covered by Route 81, and the north-south part on Franklin Boulevard will be covered primarily by the new Route 67, although the new Route 67 will turn and go east on Mack Road over to Cosumnes River College. The part on Route 65 out to Delta Shores will be discontinued, and that's due simply to, partly due to low ridership, but partly because it's just, at this time, it's too distant from the remainder of our transit network, and it's viewed as still somewhat of a discretionary trip to shopping that can be made by other means on the transit network. So we'd like to conserve our resources for service to other neighborhoods where there's a more urgent need for transit. And then going back to Route 55, you can see the existing route today with 30-minute service. This is going to be covered in the new network, primarily by Route 68, which will have a similar or better level of service. Finally, in the south area, there are 3 routes that will be eliminated from the existing system. Route 47, Route 54, and Route 5. And if we'll start starting with Route 5, you can see existing ridership on Route 5. We get a fair number of riders at the light rail station, but primarily most of the ridership goes all the way out to the end of the route, and it's pretty much concentrated on one morning trip and one afternoon trip. And that's why in the new network, we'll be retaining those 2 trips and just changing the route number from 5 to 105. Going back to the existing Route 54, you can see that it has kind of a circuitous route from the Florin station down to Cosumnes River College, and then across 99 with some service up toward Gerber Road. And in the new network, this territory will mostly be covered by Route 67, which provides this north-south service on Franklin Boulevard and which goes over to Mack Road, Cosumnes River College. And again, looking at the ridership for Route 54, you can see that there's a lot of ridership at the light rail station and at the college, and that Mac Road is a major ridership point. There is a little bit of ridership on Center Parkway. However, we believe that most of these riders will be well covered by the new Route 67. And again, looking at Route 67 and the half-mile catchment, this covers most, not all of the Center Parkway catchment, but most of the Center Parkway catchment. But due to Route 67 being an overall stronger route, we can sustain service on this route every 30 minutes, weekdays and Saturdays, and a pretty good level of service on Sundays. Looking at the eastern part of Route 54 that crosses 99 and goes north-south on Power Inn Road, you can see that the existing ridership is pretty minimal. And this service is also hourly on the weekdays. This part of the route actually does not run on weekends. The western part runs on Saturdays, but this part does not run on weekends. In the new network, we would not have any service east of Power Inn Road in this area. We would have the new 68 going as far east as Power Inn and Gerber. But this area that is currently partially served today by Route 5 and Route 54, this would become served by a new Smart Ride microtransit zone. So this green polygon here, this represents our new Smart Ride zone for Gerber, and you can see that it would be bound by Power Inn Road, Gerber Road, the Union Pacific Railroad, and Calvine Road. And it would pick up curb to curb in this area and would provide a nonstop service over to Cosumnes River College. And incidentally, the orange zone on the left represents our existing Franklin microtransit zone. So although we do think the new fixed route service via the new 67 and 56 in this area will provide good fixed route service for people who are not within walking distance of those routes, we do already have this Smart Ride microtransit zone in effect. It goes as far east as 99 and as far south as Cosumnes River Boulevard. Route 47, lastly, is an hourly route that runs just on weekdays without any real evening service, and it covers 24th Street, Meadowview Road, primarily Franklin Boulevard and Florin Road over to Florin Mall. And this route is also proposed for elimination. Jumping over to the new network, you can see that most of where Route 47 runs today is covered by other routes. So our strategy here is simply that by reallocating those resources from Route 47 to other routes, that's partly how we afford the improved level of service on our core routes. So the extra trips and improved headways that we have on our other routes, that's partly paid for by taking those resources from Route 47. And that's another reason we are changing Route 56 from going down Mac Road to going to Brookfield Drive. So between 56 and 67 and 81, these are all very robust routes with 7-day service. As you can see here, they have 30-minute weekday service. And as mentioned before, for folks who do find that the walking distance to one of these major routes is prohibitively far, we do have the Franklin Smart Ride Zone that is available to people already today. The next area we're going to talk about is the downtown, midtown, and East Sacramento area. And the first route we'll cover is Route 38. And in our initial proposal, we had actually suggested to eliminate Route 38. And you can see that the existing route is somewhat redundant with light rail on the PQ Street corridor here, where it competes with the Gold Line. You can see that the 38 also, it's an hourly route, and it has a very circuitous route through downtown and down to River Oaks. In the new proposal, we're actually proposing that Route 38 be combined with Route 30. And so this would function very similar to a 67 and 68 today, or an 80 and 84 today. each of these branches on the 30 and 38 would run every 30 minutes. And on the trunk, the common trunk on J Street, they would run every 15 minutes from downtown to 39th Street where they'd branch. And by branching these two routes at 39th Street, this will maintain 15-minute frequency from downtown all the way out to a number of key destinations. You'll hit the Sutter Hospital, Sutter Middle School, the Safeway on Alhambra, as well as the Mercy Hospital. And then at 39th Street, they'll branch off with Route 30 continuing directly to Sac State, and Route 38 branching and going south with service to UC Davis Medical Center, to offices and services on Stockton and Broadway, and to residences in Tahoe Park before going to 65th Street Station. For people going from downtown, perhaps transferring from other routes, headed to Sac State, they'll be able to catch whichever bus they like, the 30 or the 38, basically whichever one comes first. Today the Route 30 gets about 2,000 riders a day, and it also has pretty heavy wheelchair ridership. So one other thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting extra trips on Route 30 from about 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and from about 2:30 to 5 p.m. And that will help make sure we have adequate capacity on the 30. On weekends, the 30 and the 38 will both run hourly. This is the Saturday network, and this is the Sunday network. And you can see they both will run hourly. And so that'll provide essentially 30-minute service on the trunk with 60 minutes on the branches. And today, on Sundays, the 30 only runs hourly as it is, and the 38 only runs hourly. So they'll basically have the same level of service, but by having the 38 on the J Street corridor, it'll provide that 30-minute service. So it'll be a slight improvement in frequency for people on the J Street corridor, and it'll be a little less competitive with light rail down on the R Street corridor. And really, we can do this pretty economically because we were already running the 38 into downtown. We were just running it on a different corridor. Before I move on from routes 30 and 38, I wanted to point out one other thing, and that is that the downtown routing for both those routes, we've proposed to have them come in on westbound L Street and then turn on 5th Street and go directly to the Sacramento Valley Station for transfers to and from Amtrak and Capitol Corridor. And the return trip, the eastbound trip, would leave from the station, go east on H Street, south on 6th Street, direct to J Street, and then take J Street east to their destinations. And this is a slight change both from existing conditions and from what we originally proposed. It will maintain direct service to Sacramento Valley Station while giving us a slightly more straight and direct route and getting rid of a lot of circuitous turns and routing in the downtown. Our next route is Route 11, which is actually a Natomas route that we've proposed to extend south to City College. And this route would kind of meander from City College over Sutterville Road and then up Land Park Drive and over via 8th Avenue to Riverside Boulevard. And then it would turn on Broadway and go over to 5th Street. And 5th Street and 3rd Street are one-way streets, so it would go 5th Street in the northbound direction, 3rd Street in the southbound direction. And from there, it would continue into downtown and then do the rest of its route, which goes on out to Natomas. So a couple of the things we're trying to do with Route 11 here is, first of all, because we're eliminating Route 2 and Route 6, except for those peak hour trips on the new 102 and the 106, the new 11 extension will provide some basic coverage to the upper Land Park area. And that'll be 7-day-a-week service too, because Route 11 currently runs Monday through Saturday, and we're planning on adding Sunday service. So right now, there is no weekend service on Route 2 or 6. So the 11 will actually provide that 7-day coverage, including to the zoo, at least in its current location. The other thing we'll be doing with Route 11 is this gives us a little better coverage for folks living in the River Oaks neighborhood. We Won't be running service directly through the neighborhood as it's pretty narrow streets and pretty tight turns, but by having the Route 11 go down as far west as 5th Street, you can see from kind of the half-mile radius here that this will provide pretty good coverage, both to residences in River Oaks as well as to the high school. Before we move on from downtown, one final route, and that's Route 33. Our initial proposal had Route 33 being eliminated. In our new proposal, we'll be keeping Route 33. It primarily serves as a way to transport people from the Alkali Flat light rail station to the area north of B Street off of Richards. And RT was fortunate enough to recently get part of grant money to build a station in the vicinity of Richards Boulevard here. And once that station is built, the need for Route 33 will pretty much go away, and we're expecting that we'll discontinue Route 33 at that time. But for the time being, with the current plan, we're suggesting that Route 33 just be maintained as is. Route 34 is one of our other routes in the downtown and East Sacramento area, and today it runs hourly service. The peak hour trips going into downtown are fairly well used, but the remainder of the service is not. So in the new network, what we're proposing is to simply convert it from Route 34 to Route 134. And 90% of the service would be discontinued. We would just be retaining a few trips in the morning into town and a few trips back out of town. For folks who do like to use the route off-peak, they would have an alternative in the form of Route 30 with a little bit longer walk distance. And also, although it's not part of the SacRT Forward project, RT is developing a smart ride for the downtown and East Sacramento area that will provide curb-to-curb service and fill in some of those gaps during the off-peak. One minor change to the routing for Route 134, it's not shown in this map, but on the former site of the former Sutter Hospital, this area is being redeveloped, and there will be a new through street, basically a continuation of 53rd Street. And when that street is built, we'll take advantage of that to have a slightly more direct route for the Route 34, the new Route 134. Next, we're going to talk about the north area. And most of the changes in the north area are to Routes 13 and Route 19. Route 15 is going to be shortened to just run from Wad I-80 to Arden Del Paso. The existing segment into downtown is going to be discontinued, but people could just take light rail into downtown. And the routing for Route 86 and Route 88 is basically the same as today. We are going to be making headway improvements in the north area. So if you look at the existing Saturday network, you can see it's all hourly routes, and there's no north-south service on Northgate. And on the Sunday network, it's all hourly routes, and there's no Route 11 on Truxell, nor is there a Route 13 on Northgate. If you go to the new Saturday network, you can see that we now have 45-minute service on Route 11 and Route 13, and that the hourly routes on 88 and 86 have been improved to 45 minutes, and that Route 15 will actually go from being an hourly route to running every 30 minutes. And likewise on Sundays, the Route 15 will just run every 45 minutes on Sundays, but all the other routes will run every 45 minutes as well, and the only hourly route will be the Route 19, which will remain hourly. We're also going to add evening trips on Route 86 and Route 88 on weekdays and Saturdays to get it so that these two routes have service from downtown until 9 p.m. Route 13 in the existing system is an hourly route running from Arden Del Paso up Northgate Boulevard. And in the new system, we're going to be extending the route north and east through Natomas out west of I-5. And we're going to be changing the alignment from going on Northgate Boulevard and North Market Boulevard to going up Northgate, turning on San Juan Road, and then going up Truxell. And if you look at the existing network, and if we go to the satellite view, you can see that the existing Route 13, when it goes north of San Juan Road, you get an area that's kind of not built, and then the freeway, and then a pretty industrial area. We do get some ridership to state offices here on North Market Drive at Gateway Park Drive, but with the new route going along Truxell Boulevard, those offices will still be fairly close to the 11, or I'm sorry, to the Route 13, and also on our morning peak trips in the outbound direction, which is usually a pretty empty direction for us, we will have that bus go off route a little and go up Gateway Park to have a drop off right here by the state offices. So the rest of the day the route will stay on Truxell, but for those morning trips we'll have a drop off right there for those state offices. The other thing on Route 13 is that in our initial proposal we had it continue to end its service at Arden-El Paso Light Rail Station, but in the new proposal we'll be extending it east along Arden Way, past Arden Fair Mall, and out Arden Way, and then up to El Camino and Butano, where it'll turn around. And this will basically take over for the existing 22. If we go and look at the existing 22, you'll see that it currently goes out Arden Way, and it's an hourly route, but it doesn't have Saturday service, it doesn't have Sunday service. The new 13 will run not only on weekdays, but you see it's also in the Saturday network and in the Sunday network. So that'll be a 45-minute service, 7 days a week, both on Arden Way and on Northgate Boulevard and on Truxell and west of I-5. And keep in mind that the 13 does not run on weekends at all under existing conditions either. So this will provide some new connectivity both on the Northgate corridor and on for residents on Truxell. They do already have Route 11 on Saturdays, but they have no Sunday service. And this will provide, between Route 11 and Route 13, both of them will now have 7-day-a-week service, and residents in this corridor will have their choice of being able to go directly to downtown or go more diagonally over to Arden-El Paso for other bus connections, or farther east into the Arden Arcade area for bus connections there. So the last north area route we'll talk about is Route 19, which is shown here. And the existing route goes up Norwood Avenue, over the top and down Watt Avenue. And this is a map of the existing ridership. You can see where it's strong on the north-south sections with a little bit of ridership in the town of Rio Linda. What we set out to do with the new route, and this is a little different than we initially proposed, but we proposed to continue the north-south section on Norwood to hit our key spots in the town of Rio Linda, and then to express over to Watt Avenue via Elkhorn with a little tail going up to Watt Avenue in Alberta. And we think this matches where we have a lot of ridership. We don't have a lot of ons and offs in this east-west section, but we do know that a lot of people pick the route up in Rio Linda and their destination is on Watt Avenue, either at the Walmart at Watt and Alberta or a little farther south at some of the shopping on Watt and Elkhorn. Next, we're going to cover the northeast area. And from our initial proposal, the two biggest changes are probably to routes 23 and 25. But I'm going to go ahead and recap all the major changes out here. Starting first of all with Route 26. Route 26 is going to be extended north on Watt Avenue. We're going to have later hours of service on it and 30-minute Saturday service. One minor change from our initial draft proposal is that on Route 26 we're going to maintain some service through McClellan Business Park via a quick little loop here. This is on Peacekeeper Way, Dudley Boulevard, and James Way. Next we'll go to Route 84, and Route 84 is going to be rerouted slightly. The existing route goes on Antelope Road and Watt Avenue. The new route will continue on Walerga Drive and go west on Alberta Road. And this will just give us a little better coverage into the North Highlands area. Next is Route 93. Looking at the existing network here, Route 93 goes up Hillsdale Road, crosses I-80 and goes out Auburn Boulevard to Lewis and Orlando. And in the new system, we're going to combine Route 93 with Route 95, which primarily serves Antelope Road in Citrus Heights. So in the new network, you can see those two routes have kind of been combined, and this creates kind of one more cohesive route with 7-day service. We are going to improve Saturday headways on 93 to every 45 minutes, and we're also going to be adding some evening trips on Sunday when we found that the existing service ends a little early in the evening. Next, we're going to talk about routes 25 and 23. Route 23, the routing is basically unchanged from existing conditions. We had initially proposed to change the routing of Route 23 around to provide a little more direct service from Carmichael over to American River College, but we decided to scale that back and keep Route 23 more like it is today, going out to Sunrise Mall. There is a slight change to it down in the Arden Arcade area. Currently it runs on Ethan Way, and we're going to reroute that to run on Howe Avenue so it can share stops with Route 87. Route 25 currently runs on Marconi and up the Fair Oaks Boulevard and Manzanita corridor. We had also proposed to reroute that over to the Walnut Avenue corridor to again provide direct service to American River College. But based on further review, we decided to keep Route 25 more similar to how it is today. However, it will still change a little bit. I'll show you the existing network. In the existing system, Route 25 goes up Manzanita and goes by Mercy San Juan Hospital here, and then takes Madison Avenue out to Sunrise Mall. In the new system, it will go up Manzanita Avenue, go by Mercy San Juan Hospital, and then it will turn onto Dewey Drive and go up to Auburn Boulevard and up to Lewis and Orlando Transit Center. So the main part of the route that we're losing is just this minor segment here on Madison Avenue. This map shows the existing ridership patterns on Route 25, and you can see that it does really well on Marconi and does pretty well on Fair Oaks Boulevard and Manzanita. Right where my mouse is where the hospital is, and you can see that east of the hospital, the ridership is pretty low, at least until you get to Sunrise Boulevard. But you can see with the existing Route 23 that it has very strong ridership, especially in its western half, and then a little better ridership on this east-west section and its north-south section here. So we believe that by eliminating this east-west section on the 25, this area will still probably be all right. If you look at the population density, which we can see pretty well in Remix, you can see that this is kind of a less dense area. And if we look at the level of poverty here, you can also see this lighter area indicates that this is kind of a more high income area. So we think that by keeping the 23 going through here, that will probably be adequate service, and that it will be okay to reroute the 25 up Auburn Boulevard and up to Lewis and Orlando, which essentially covers for the 93, which runs on that corridor today. And you can see that the population density there isn't super extreme, but it is more of a retail corridor with a lot of transit ridership. On Route 23, due to pretty heavy ridership, we're also going to be adding extra trips in the afternoon and giving the route a little more time to help it be more reliable. We're also going to be improving the Sunday frequency to every 45 minutes on Route 23. And on the Saturday, or on the Route 25, we'll be improving the Saturday service to every 45 minutes and adding Sunday service every 60 minutes. Going back to the existing system, Route 24 is an hourly route that does a one-way loop, and Route 24 would be eliminated in the new system. It's currently being covered by Smart Ride service that we run out here. Route 28 would also be eliminated in the new proposal. It's currently an hourly route, and it's pretty close in proximity to Route 21, which is a major route for us. Down in the Rancho Cordova area, it's also somewhat redundant with the light rail service. There is a segment from Butterfield Light Rail Station to the Mather Light Rail Station where it's approximately 2 miles between stations, and that bus service would be continued on a different route that I'll cover later in this video. There won't be any changes to the routing of Route 21. It'll continue to do its route as is, but there will be some changes to the start and end times. And the biggest change is that currently we run some of the weekend trips and some of the weekday trips as well on a short pattern just from the Mather Light Rail Station to Sunrise Mall. And so not all the trips go all the way to Lewis and Orlando. And we're going to extend all the trips out to Lewis and Orlando. Now on Saturdays, we currently run the short trips every 30 minutes and the long trips hourly. And in the new schedule, we'll just run the entire length every 45 minutes. And we think this will probably be a better use of resources and lead to better ridership. Route 29, which is a commuter bus for us from the Carmichael area and along Arden Way into downtown. It will be unchanged, but we will be changing the route number to 129. I'll jump back over to the new network. As you can see in the new network, it's numbered 129. And the other express route in this area is Route 109, which picks up along Hazel and does an express trip into downtown. And it'll also be unchanged. Route 82, which is shown here going through the Arden Arcade area from Sac State to American River College, will be mostly unchanged with just some minor changes to the routing at its northern end. Currently, it has a somewhat circuitous path through this neighborhood, and this will be straightened out to run more of a straight shot on Whitney Avenue and then up Walnut Avenue to American River College. Headways on Route 82 on Saturday will also be improved to every 45 minutes. Route 87 on Howe Avenue won't have any changes to the route itself, but we will be adding trips on weeknights to extend the hours a little later in the evening. And we'll also be improving headways to every 45 minutes on Saturdays and Sundays. And on Sundays, we'll also be adding some evening trips to lengthen the service day on Sundays as well. Route 84 was already discussed, but one additional change to mention on Route 84 is that currently Route 84 on the southern part of the route does a direct shot on Watt Avenue straight to the light rail station at Watt and Manlove, and Route 80 provides service on La Riviera Drive. Route 80 is being eliminated in the new proposal and is going to be covered by Route 84, which will have 30-minute headways. But because of the ridership we get on La Riviera, including a lot of student ridership, we're going to have Route 84 move over to La Riviera Drive to pick up those riders on weekdays. On weekends, and I'm going to switch to my Saturday view here, on weekends we will keep Route 84 going straight north-south on Watt Avenue. We found that we don't have as much ridership on La Riviera Drive on weekends, and we also found that the way our schedules worked out for this route, that the time savings from going on a more direct route on Watt Avenue would be pivotal in working out an efficient and reliable schedule. Going back to our existing system, one last route to cover in our northeast area is Route 103, which is an express bus that picks up along Auburn Boulevard and expresses into light rail at Watt 980. There won't be any changes to this route, but I'm going to jump back over to the new system. With Route 93 shifting over to west of I-80, we expect that we'll be seeing more riders on Route 103. And we are also coincidentally changing the route numbering from Route 103 to Route 193 to indicate how it's kind of an express version of Route 93. Moving down to Rancho Cordova and jumping back over to the existing network, you can see Route 28. And Route 28 is actually proposed to be removed, discontinued. Currently, it's an hourly route with no weekend service and not much evening service. And if you look at the existing ridership on it, the ridership on this section here, kind of the east-west section in eastern Rancho Cordova, is pretty minimal. Our expectation is that based on the proximity of this route to Route 21, which runs primarily on Coloma, that most of those stops on Route 21 are within walking distance. And by discontinuing Route 28, that will kind of bolster ridership on 21 a little bit, and that will help us to sustain service levels and add service over time to Route 21, which is already kind of a major route with 7-day-a-week service and evening service. The western part of Route 28, from the Mather Light Rail Station down to Butterfield Light Rail Station, this is not a particularly heavily used part of the route either. However, it is not redundant with any other routes. It provides kind of an essential connection between these two light rail stations, which are spaced 2 miles apart. So this part of the route will actually be continued, but it will be on a different route, and that will be the new Route 75. And this is the new Route 75 in the new network. Jumping back to the existing system, today south of Highway 50, there are two green all-day routes. There's Route 75 and there's Route 74. And Route 74 is largely redundant with the pink Cordovan route, specifically Route 177, which provides a shuttle to and from light rail. So we believe that the eastern part of Route 74 not only can probably be eliminated, but will probably help ridership on Route 177. And that leaves us with resources to focus on the western half of this area. And with respect to that area, we've looked at the ridership on Route 75 and as well as Route 74. And Route 75 has just a couple key hotspots. Route 74, as you can see, has pretty minimal ridership throughout, although over the course of the day, it does pick up a similar number of riders as Route 75. But as mentioned, the eastern part will be covered mostly by the Cordovan. So our new Route 75 will focus on combining the major destinations on the existing 74 and 75. And the main sources of ridership on these routes today consists of a lot of apartments on Data Drive, the Mather Community Campus, and SacWorks Employment Center on Moyer Street, and a county office off of Armstrong Avenue. So as you can see from the new Route 75, the new route would take advantage of new connectivity we have from Moyer Street to International Drive. It would hit all of our major hotspots in Mather and hit our key ridership spots on Data Drive that are currently on Route 74. And with this more efficient routing, we'll be able to run this route every 30 minutes, whereas today we run the 74 and the 75 alone just on an hourly basis. And moreover, on weekends, although we do run the 75 hourly on weekends today, Route 74 today on the Data Drive area doesn't have any weekend service. On weekends, the new Route 75, which combines these two routes, it will run every 60 minutes. So that will be same level of service for existing 75 customers. It'll be new service for existing 74 customers. And on Folsom Boulevard, we don't currently have any weekend service, so it will also be new hourly service on Folsom Boulevard, including to the Rancho Cordova Library, which today has just hourly weekday service. Next, we have Route 72, and there are no changes to the routing for Route 72. The only changes we'll be making to Route 72 are simply that we'll be adding some extra trips, both in the morning and the evening, on both Saturdays and Sundays to lengthen the day of service.